7 scientists. Welcome to my presentation, which is here to help you with your preparation for the end of year tests. I'm going to go over a number of different topics and try to explain them in a bit more detail. If I'm talking too fast, you may be able to change the speed. I'm going to set questions between or after each slide that you will need to answer. Okay? Let's begin with the states of matter. There are lots, maybe 5 states of matter. We're only really interested in 3 of them. So for our purpose, we need to know about solids, about liquids, and about gas. Now, you can go from being a solid to a liquid by melting, and you can go from a liquid to gas by evaporating or vaporization, they've said here. You can go back the other way by removing the heat energy, go from a gas to a liquid, which is called condensation, or you can remove more energy from a liquid and you become a solid by freezing or solidification. Now, a way to work out whether things are going to be solids, liquids, or gas involves imagining things on a giant thermometer. Here's my giant thermometer just here. Let me find a red pen. So let's put a bulb on the end so it looks like a nice thermometer. Very cool. And I've got some temperatures on here in Kelvin. Now, normally we work in Celsius, or some people work in Fahrenheit, but this is in Kelvin. Now, absolute zero, that's as cold as you can possibly get. That's the temperature in space, which is pretty cold. And then we've got the temperature that water freezes, which is 273 Kelvin, or 0 centigrade. And the temperature that water boils, which is 373 Kelvin, or 100 centigrade. Everything below the temperature that something freezes will be a solid, however, S. Everything between the temperature that it boils and the temperature that it freezes will be a liquid. And everything above the temperature that it boils will be a gas. Okay, that's quite important to remember. Now let's go on to my next slide. And we're going to think about how the particles are arranged. This is called the particle model. Now, if you've got an element, elements are made up of one type of building block, one type of atom. They can be stuck together because they're still one type. So we've got elements can be atoms or they can be molecules. These molecules are where they're stuck together. Mixtures are a bit different. Mixtures aren't just one type of atom, they're more than one type of atom. So we've got green and orange ones mixed together. These are a mixture of an atom. This one is a mixture of an elemental atom. This one is a mixture of an elemental atom, a molecular element mixed together. This one here are 2 different types of molecule mixed together, but they're not joined to each other. So you've got double pinks and double purples, but they're not joined to each other. And then we've got an extra one. We had molecules before, and now we're getting an extra piece. Before I mention it, I'm going to come over here. Over here, look, we've got a new substance called compound. Compound is 2 or more atoms joined together. So here we go, we've got little one, bigger one, or pink one, green one. This looks a little bit like water molecules look like. And because they have 2 characteristics, they're a molecule, it's more than one stuck together, and they're also a compound because there's more than one type. This is a molecular compound. Over here, I've got molecules of a compound, just like before, molecular compounds, and I've got molecules of an element, but they're still mixed together, so it's still a mixture. Make sure you know the different types. Here is your friend the periodic table. And we've got B, C, S, T, at, separating off the non-metals from the metals. Most of the things we deal with in life are metal. Now, there are some important elements we need to know about. For life, they are C, which is carbon, H, which is hydrogen, O, which is oxygen, and N, which is nitrogen. These make up most of what it is to be a living organism. Now, when it comes to the other elements, there's 4 metals which are really important for you to know the names of. There's iron, Fe, there's nickel, Ni, there's copper, Cu, and there's magnesium, Mg. Now you'll notice that if there's 2 letters, then the first letter is always a capital, and the second letter is always lowercase. If there's only 1 letter, then it's always a capital. Sometimes you might be expecting something else to be there. For example, HE and H, well, they could both be H, couldn't they? Except for H has already gone to HE, which we're not going to use much. It's helium, it's a type of gas you put in balloons. I'd have a second letter. Sometimes the letters aren't what you expect for another reason. So this W is tungsten. Tungsten is an element named after wolfram, which is the Germanic name for the metal. Okay, and Hg is another unusual one. Sn is tin, Au is gold. So make sure you know some of your elements. Next, the fire triangle. If you want something to catch fire, you need to have 3 parts. You need to have oxygen, you need to have heat, and you need to have fuel. Now the fuel is the thing we're going to burn. Oxygen often comes from the air, and heat, it will normally make its own, but you have to provide some in the first place to make the fire start. The scientific name for burning is combustion. I wonder if I can write that. No, not right to the pen. There we go. This is okay. C-O-M-B-U-S-T-I-O-N, combustion. Now, I've got a type of fuel here. This one here is a fuel molecule called methane. This is the one that our bodies can make. If you mix it with oxygen, which is O2, then you can make a new substance, or 2 new substances. You can take the carbon that was in the middle of methane and make it the middle of this molecule. This is carbon in the middle. And we can take 2 of these oxygens and stick them on the sides. Now it looks a little bit like a fly. This is carbon with 2 oxygens, so it's carbon dioxide. If you do your counting, you'll see we haven't used up enough stuff. We've got 1 of these dark grey balls used up. There it is, done. I've still got 4 of these white ones done. They are hydrogens. And I'm also going to be left with 2 of these red ones. And these are oxygens. So we need to join them together. You can stick 2 of the hydrogens onto 1 oxygen and make a new substance called water, or dihydrous oxide, if you want to have a technical name for it. But it's water. Now, because we've burned something, a fuel, in oxygen, we've made 2 products. The products are carbon dioxide and water. Your blood is amazing. There's loads of it sloshing around inside you and flowing through your blood vessels. If you spin it around really fast, you can separate it out, and the heaviest bits sink to the bottom, and the lighter bits float on top. Let's start at the bottom. Now, the bottom bits are called red blood cells, or red blood corpuscles. The proper name for them is erythrocytes. They're involved in carrying oxygen around your body. Let's write oxygen next to it, but let's write O2 up on. Done again. Okay. So you can do O2. That's this chemical formula for oxygen that we breathe. The middle section are white blood cells, you see there's a few different types, and platelets. White blood cells help you fight infection, and platelets help you clot when you get a cut. Clotting is blocking. So if you cut your finger, for example, your platelets will help to fill up that cut and stop you leaking. The big section on top is called plasma. It's kind of a yellowy colour. It's a little bit less orange than this one is. And it's mainly water. It's also got some ions, some proteins, some nutrients, there's some waste products like urea and carbon dioxide, and some dissolved gases like, again, carbon dioxide, already mentioned it. So most of the stuff is actually carried by your plasma. Oxygen is carried by red blood cells, and the white blood cells and platelets help to fight infection and cause clots. Plasma is really important. Imagine if you digested your lunch, then you want the plasma to take all the things that you've digested to the various places in your body. Next slide. Here are some other cells. Now these cells are generalized cells, and we might have drawn them much more simply than this. So we might have drawn an animal cell, a bit like a circle with a dark circle in the middle, and a plant cell would have been a box with a slightly smaller box inside it, and then another smaller shape inside that, and then there's the dark box here, and then you might have some green bits just floating around. The level of complexity depends on how much we're studying. I quite like this one on the left, because it's already done and looks neater than mine. Let's talk about some of the important bits. The really important bits are things like the membrane. That's the layer on the outside that lets things in and out of the cell. Sometimes it's called the cell membrane. The nucleus is my blob in the middle of my fried egg, or inside this one here as well. I've just coloured it in blue here so you can see it nice and easily. This contains the genetic information that tells the cell how to do its job. It's a set of codes that has been passed on from the mother cell to the daughter cell every generation. Sometimes it changes, but not by much. There is good mutations. The mitochondrion, or mitochondria, are the powerhouse of the cell, and their job is to make energy for the cell. Cells that have to do a lot, like liver cells and muscle cells, have a lot of mitochondria. Cells that don't do much, like fat cells, which are just storage cells, don't have much mitochondria. And the last bit is cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is the goopy jelly-like stuff inside of cells, both in animals and plants, that helps act as a place where chemical reactions can take place. I think there's one more I've just noticed I've highlighted. Ribosomes. Ribosomes are there to help make stuff. And the stuff they normally help make are called proteins. They make proteins by joining together the building blocks of proteins. Here we go, number 7. Here are some other specialised cells. See if you can guess what they are before I get to them. The first one is found in plants, and we'll have a look at these a little bit more in a moment. They're called palisade cells. The second one, I'm not sure what it is. SC, something cell. It could be no, I haven't got a clue. Looks like a basal cell. It could be a ciliated epithelial cell, except it's got any lines on the top. You can work it out. Answers on a postcard. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think it might be. The third one is a nerve cell. Sometimes it's called a neuron. Here's our red blood cell. Now the red blood cell, we already remember, it's got a erythrocyte. Here's a sperm cell. It contains information that can be used to fertilize an egg and help make a new living thing. This one here with a long tail coming out of it is called a root hair cell. Its big long tail helps to increase the amount of surface area where the plant can absorb water and nutrients from the soil. Now these ones here, there's one and there's another one, they're guard cells. And guard cells surround a little hole called a stomata. This lets gases in and out of the plant leaf. Here we've got some long cells. There's 3 different types of this particular one. This is muscle cell. Muscle cells are contractile. That means they can make themselves smaller. And the last one on the page is a white blood cell. These are used to help fight infections in your body or any other living being's body. So back to plants. And I said we'd mention them again. Here's my palisade cells. We said they're palisade mesophyll. That means it's the layer where these cells are. And here we've got another mention again. We've got the guard cells. Now the guard cells are either side of the hole, the stoma or stomata. So gases can go in through the hole and get up to where these palisade cells are trying to make food for the plant using sunlight. Now the way that these leaves work is at the top of the leaf. The stem here carries the leaves up as high as it possibly can because it wants to get above the other plants, and that way it can get more sunlight. It also helps carry stuff from the roots up to the leaves. So the stem is carrying water and nutrients upwards, and in return sugars are taken back down from the leaves to the roots. Now if you cut the stem, the plant can't live very long. And if you cover the leaves, the plant can't live for very long. If you want the plant to do better, you often add fertilizer. Fertilizers contain minerals that the plant needs to help it grow new cells and in turn grow. The last slide coming up is how we organize those cells. So if you take a single cell, that's our building block of life. Some organisms are made of just one cell, such as a yeast or an amoeba. They're just single-celled organisms. You are not a single-celled organism. You're a bit more complicated than that. So if you take lots of the same type of cell and join them together, and they work together you form a tissue. For example, muscle tissue or skin tissue is made up of muscle cells and skin cells. You can then take a group of different tissues and join them together, and you can make an organ. Here's an example of an organ. This is a heart. And it's made out of muscle cells and nerve cells and other types of cells like pacemaker cells that help the heart do its job. So it's doing one specific job. You can then combine it with other organs. So if we included your lungs, these blue and red lines are to represent your veins and arteries and possibly capillaries, then you get these organs joined together to make an organ system. Finally, if you've got enough organ systems, so this is the circulatory system that carries blood around your body, which, as we know, is there to protect you and carry nutrients and oxygen and carbon dioxide around your body. Well, you need other things as well, like a skeletal system, and you'd want a nervous system, and you'd want some other systems as well. And when you've got enough systems together, all working to help doing their particular jobs to help keep an organism alive, well, you get an organism. That's the end thing that you get to. You are a living organism because you are alive. I hope you find that helpful. I hope you've answered the questions, and I've also made a quiz for you to do, which I will share with you soon. Okay? Have a lovely revision. Remember, you can go back and watch this video as many times as you like, and you can ask questions about it as well if you want to. Okay? Have a great day. See you soon. I've got to find the quitting button. Where is it? Just there.